For the fifth round of the 2008 KCB Kenya National Rally Championship, competitors headed to northern Kenya, to the small town of Nanyuki, which is located on the equator, where the hours of daylight and night are equally split. The rally would run on the huge 90,000-acre Olpejeta Conservancy, on roads in the southern corner of the ranch, where the free-roaming wildlife were in for a disturbed weekend.
So we're expecting record speeds to begin with, which would add to a real competition at the top. The smooth, the twisty bits of it is going to draw out the skills. And definitely for spectators, it's going to be very exciting, I believe.
The biggest distraction would be the magnificent Mount Kenya, and as long as the navigators always kept it in sight, they were unlikely to get lost. The pre-event check of the cars took place at the Sportsman's Arms Hotel, the rally base for the event. As the cars took their place on the football pitch, the atmosphere began to build as the rally came under orders for what would be 2 days of competition. The title sponsor of the championship series, KCB, were once again endorsing one of their many products, which gave the event the title of the KCB Easy Pay Loan Rally. The ceremonial start for the event was in the town centre, where hundreds gathered to see the cars away. Asad Anwar with Frank Gitao had been drawn number 1. Asad had won his only championship victory on this rally in 2006 and was in a confident mood. Wherever the rally series starts in Kenya, the drivers are guaranteed an enthusiastic send-off. The first competitive of the rally was a 4-kilometer spectator stage through a forest on the outskirts of Nanyuki, for the benefit of those who could not get to the main stages being held out of town. There had been a brief thunderstorm which meant for the top runners the surface was slippery. "27 seconds eventually separated the field, and it was Lee Rose and Piers Dakin who took the honours in a time of 1 minute 50 seconds. They would have been quicker had they recce'd the right route.
We made notes for the wrong piece of road. So Piers said to me, "Brow is turn slow right." I said to him, "No, it's actually hairpin left." And he said, "Well, you're on your own from now on." We're on the camera.
Baldev Chaga and Farouk Yusuf in a Subaru N12 was second fastest, losing 2 seconds to Rose. Emmanuel Kato with Moses Matovu shared second place, giving an indication of the speed the N14 would be driven at on the main stages of the event. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup driving a Subaru N10 were a further 2 seconds back in third, but the stage was only a warm-up, and more was expected of them as the rally unfolded. Following an overnight halt, Asad Anwar and Frank Gitao once again led the field away, heading for the main stages of the rally 40 kilometers out of Nanyuki. There were 161 competitive kilometers to be covered during the day, split into 12 stages. The 12 stages were made up of only 4 sections, which were repeated 3 times, with service breaks in between each loop. The stages ranged in length from a 4-kilometer spectator section at the beginning of each loop, with the longest being stage 4 at 25 kilometers. Asad Anwar with Frank Gitao may have been first on the road, but were lying last overall, having broken a drive shaft on the spectator stage the previous day. They were driving hard, and over the first loop climbed 11 places on the leaderboard to 6th. They had been first to find that the edges of the road had been ploughed to stop the cars cutting the corners. This had not been there on Recce and made the driving line a lot tighter. As expected, it was Lee Rose and Piers Dakin out in front. With a quick acceleration of the Evo 9 combined with its impressive top-end speed, after only 53 kilometers of competitive motoring, they were in the lead by nearly a minute.
This is my kind of going. It's not too rough. It's not a matter of hammering it. It's how well you drive and how much speed you carry out of the corners and how well you know what corner's coming up because of the detail of the notes, and it all counts.
Baldev Chaga and Farooq Yusuf knew Rose had the power advantage, but were determined not to let him out of their sight. They were driving as fast as the N12 would allow, but still lost a second a kilometer to the Mitsubishi and had to settle for second. The top three were expected to include the N10 of Carl Tundu and Tim Jessup, but all hopes of a top place on this rally were quashed when a drive shaft broke on the very first bend. With over 50 kilometers to go before service, they were reduced to a pedestrian pace. The time lost placed them down in 19th, 14 minutes behind. This allowed local boys Sean Miller and Alistair Keith, driving a Mitsubishi Evo 6, to take over third place. They were putting in a stunning performance, which was a measure of their potential, especially as they are not regulars on the rally circuit. Driving a rally car at speed whilst feeling ill is never a good remedy, but that's what Azhar Anwar was faced with. He was suffering the dodgy reaction to the previous evening's dinner. Together with Imran Khan, they were still putting in good times, and even they were surprised to be in fourth. Of all the cars taking part, the stages suited the N14 of Emmanuel Kato and Moses Matovu the most. But they were having an awkward rally, going off 4 times on stage 3 alone. When they did get into a rhythm, the handling of the car made it difficult to control. They were in 5th and had a lot of work ahead to regain the 3 minutes lost.
On the last one, unfortunately, the radiator got blocked and the car overheated and went into safe mode. And you know, when it goes into safe mode, you can only do about 100 kilometers an hour. We must have lost at least a minute in there, if not more. I was really disappointed because we were really going well.
Anthony Nielsen with new navigator Mike Oberpit were running in Class S on this event, having found their car was not a thoroughbred Group N. But for now, it was all about getting what they could out of the car. They were slowed by a bent trailing arm, but made it to service in 7th. Alistair Kavanagh and Salim Haji were caught out when the car stalled twice on stage 3 for no reason. It turned out to be the cutout switch, and only with Alistair holding it firmly in place could they rally with confidence. They were 4 minutes down on the first loop, which placed them 8th. Sushil Shah and Abdul Sidi were only 4 seconds behind Kavanagh, and the race was on. They always put in a solid performance, but when the engine developed a misfire, there was nothing they could do and had to accept 9th. Relative newcomer who has been getting quicker and quicker on every rally he enters was Hussein Malik. Driving a Subaru Legacy with co-driver George Kiama, they were hoping to make their mark on this event and were driving hard. But it would all end when they approached a bend too fast, went wide and rolled.
It's quite twisty here in Nanyuki. The twists are too many, and I think we came very fast around the bend and hit a curb and we were off. It happened so fast we don't know what happened. Yeah.
Running further down the field was a Land Rover Defender of Andrew Doig and Toby Dunn, which appeared out of place amongst all the cars in the event. It was slow going for them on such a demanding route, and it became even more difficult when the bolt holding the rear A-frame came loose. They were disappointed to only be placed 18th.
But also, you know, we brought a camel to a horse race, so it's I think I can't put it a better way. Now it's all ready, so we're now going to leave the brain behind with you guys and go and try and do some damage.
After 5 of the 13 stages of the rally, Lee Rose had taken command, and with the time gaps behind already widening, they would be difficult to catch, especially as they've been quickest on every stage so far. The rally route on the huge ranch held a mixture of challenges for the competitors. Remembered most would be the miles of electrified fence along the boundary. When this was crossed, there were tricky and tight tracks through scrubland, and it was here where good and accurate notes made all the difference. As an added obstacle, at one point, water had been sprayed on the track, but it was not enough, only offering a brief relief from the soaring heat. At the start of the second loop, Anthony Nielsen and Mike Ogopit had been lying 7th and set off to at least finish in the top 5. But it was not to be. The rear trailing arm broke completely, forcing them to strap up the rear end to get back to service. They lost a further 90 seconds making repairs, coming close to time bar.
Yeah, if we can fix it. I don't know if we're time barred, so we're just making sure we're all right. I think we should be okay. We just have to weld it, unfortunately, because it's ripped the body off a bit. We've finished 4 rallies now. I was also thinking the other day, we finish another one, that would be too good. 5 in a row, so it's like...
With the car back on good form, they continued to finish 13. Alistair Kavanagh and Salim Haji's rally was about to go from bad to worse. They had been lying 8th when they clipped a corner and flipped onto their roof. The car couldn't be moved, and they immediately warned others behind to be cautious. But at the speed they were going, Andrew Doig and Toby Dunn in the Land Rover came round too fast, sideswiping Kavanagh's car in the rear.
Unfortunately, this one, which we cut, had a large lump of mud in it, and it just threw us up. We went along sort of on 2 wheels for 10 metres, and then it fell over on the roof. But everyone slowed down with the exception of Andrew Doig, who came along in a 3-ton Land Rover, and obviously he then went off on the same corner, went smash into the back of the car.
It would not be surprising if Kavanagh avoids this rally in future, especially recalling his big accident in 2005. The Land Rover continued, but shortly afterwards was forced out with other problems. The rally was turning out to be the most dramatic of the season, and with 4 stages still to go, the drama was far from finished. Before the event was over, nearly half the field would be forced out. Lee Rose was still in the lead, and on his current form, it was unlikely that this would change. There was still the battle for 4th and 5th, but apart from that, the leaderboard appeared established. The fast food-sponsored Mitsubishi Evo 7 of Quentin Mitchell and Sanjay Wasson would benefit the most from all the retirements, and were catapulted up the leaderboard to eventually finish 6th. Though they had been seeded 12th at the start and had been only quicker than 1 car ahead of them, their well-planned strategy had paid off. Anwar Pandya's navigator Salim Khan was feeling so ill that he was only calling out the major hazards, but was determined to finish. That they finished 7th was purely down to Anwar's skill behind the wheel. They were running on a Tanzanian permit and would not gain any points towards the Kenyan championship.
I am trying very hard, believe me. With or without the navigator, I'm trying very hard. I want to do the season next year, so I'm just trying to get into the rhythm of how the Kenyans are driving. Yeah, so that's my goal.
There were 3 classics entered, competing for the Classic Car Cup, including 2 Ford Escorts. Ian Freestone with George Mwangi were easily the quickest, winning the category by over 5 minutes, and also placed them 9th overall. Ian is a classic rally buff, traveling the world to enter events. England last weekend, Kenya this, and New Zealand next, but rallying in Kenya remains his favorite.
It's lovely, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's just It goes on and on and on in the bush. It's really, really good fun. Bend after bend after bend after bend. Sometimes we're in sort of first gear, but it's such good fun.
Whilst it was a race between the two escorts, Aslam Khan, driving the white one, was having an off day, nursing a stomach bug. Together with Faraz Khan, all they needed on this event was to finish well, to secure the Classic Car Cup, which they firmly put in the bag by coming second and 11th overall. Having finished all 5 events of the season, Aslam Khan only needs to score 3 more points to be certain of winning the 2008 Classic Car Cup. There were only 4 cars entered in the two-wheel drive category, and with the points so close amongst the leading 3, the championship was at a critical stage. At the start, Charles Hinger was out in front by 20 points, anxious to hold on to the lead to win the title in his first season of rallying. They knew the others would be chasing hard, but being first on the road would only know by how much when they got back to service. It was not good news. They were in second, trailing by 24 seconds. It was Leonardo Varesi and Kigondo Karedi who were on a charge. They were quickest over each of the opening 4 stages of the day, being fully committed. This was their second season of rallying, and having missed the title in year 1, were not going to let a rookie take it this year without a fight. The last of the 3 were Lili Karienye and Kimeli Korir. They couldn't keep up with Varese, but were matching Hinger's times, ending the loop of the stages in third, only 37 seconds behind. The category only included the first 7 stages of the event, amounting to 70 kilometers of competitive motoring, and the last 2 stages would now determine the outcome. Charles Hinger and Evans Mwenda set off to catch Varese, but the battery came loose and they went off, losing nearly a minute. It was a complete disaster, as they would finish third, giving away 7 of their hard-earned points. Limi Karienye and Kimeli Korir also went off, but only lost 15 seconds and slipped into second. Leonardo Varesi and Kigondo Karedi were uncatchable and consolidated their leads by winning the last 2 stages. They had had a faultless rally, driving on their limit. This was their first outright win of the season, and the points gained would put them back in contention for the title.
The idea is that we are keeping the championship alive. We want to take it to the last race, and we had to push a little harder this time. Everything went well, so no complaints.
Well done, Leonardo Varesi and Kigondo Karedi, well done!
Leonardo Varesi had won by 38 seconds, but it had been a close race. James Karemi can be pleased with 4th on his first outing. Charles Hinger still holds on to the championship lead, but with 3 events remaining, it's still wide open. Karienye now desperately needs a win to stay in touch. The All-Pajeta Conservancy, who had extended their use of their land for the rally, is primarily a wildlife reserve and the closest sanctuary from Nairobi, where the Big 5 can be seen in the wild. This was evidenced by many of the drivers who had to give way on several occasions. It's very popular with tourists, who are guaranteed a memorable wildlife experience, including the opportunity to see black rhino and the endangered chimpanzee. But visitors today were there for rally action, and a dedicated spectator stage ensured that they were not disappointed. The first section of each loop of the rally passed within close proximity of the VIP hospitality tents, and with the cars going flat out, the thousands of spectators were well rewarded. Lee Rose and Piers Dakin were quickest on all 3 attempts on the stage, but the real time was gained on the longer stages where they continued to be uncatchable. There was now nothing in the way of their winning the event, and they settled into a pace to ensure the victory. But a rally is not over until the end, and they would be dealt a cruel hand. In sight of the last control, the fuel pump failed. Off camera, they came to a standstill and were out. Also out was Sean Miller and Alistair Keith. They were guaranteed 3rd place when the clutch failed on stage 11. And with 40 kilometers remaining to the end, they decided to save the gearbox. With Rose out, Emmanuel Kato and Moses Motovu had moved up to 5th, and with only 17 seconds separating them from 4th, gave a final push, but it would all end in a dramatic roll. It came about due to the handling of the car. Throughout the day, Emmanuel had been turning early on the bends as the car tended to go wide. But when he turned early for this bend, the car responded immediately, and the small incline was enough to send them over.
Because of the way the car had been handling, I set it up for this corner, thinking it was going to drift out of the corner. But the setup was so much better that it actually turned in much better than I anticipated. So we clipped the bank, went onto 2 wheels, and then slow roll onto the roof and back onto its wheels again.
With 3 of the leaders out, the effect on the leaderboard was dramatic. Having broken their drive shaft on stage 2, Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup had spent the rest of the rally climbing through the ranks, but even they couldn't have envisaged a top 5 placing by the end. Incredibly, they had come from 19th to 5th, reflecting that it had all been well worth not throwing in the towel. Sushil Shah and Abdul Sidi also relished in the change of fortune. Consistency in rallying is always a recipe for success, and following this proven strategy rewarded them with 4th, their best result of the season. Azhar Anwar and Imran Khan were undoubtedly the most deserving crew of the rally. Under the circumstances, Azhar should not have been rallying at all, and to finish 3rd was a reflection of his stamina. Azhar was back on the podium for the first time in 2 years.
The advantage is the rallies are so short now, so I could just wind myself up for those few minutes, do a section and then poof, wind myself up again, next section. Now I'm totally gone. If the rally was any longer or the sections were any longer, there was no chance.
It would be a family affair on the podium, with brother Asad Anwar with Frank Gitao taking 2nd. It had been a hard-fought race between the 2 right to the end, but Asad had won by nearly a minute to be the runner-up for the 2nd consecutive rally.
Yesterday we thought we weren't even, we dropped out. We're just lucky to beat the time bar. We started off 22nd last. Even the 2-wheel drives were in front of us. And we had to fight our way back up.
Baldev Chaga and Farooq Yusuf had been chasing Rose all day and couldn't believe their luck. They were ahead of Rose on the road, and it was only at the end that they'd learned they'd won. For the championship, they would have been happy with 2nd, but 1st was even better. The crowds awaiting the cars at the finish back in Nyanyuki were unaware of the turn of events on the final stages and were still expecting Rose to arrive first. Whilst they waited, the comedy group Zangalewa kept them entertained. The crowd were surprised when Chaga was declared to be the winner and enthusiastically welcomed them to the finish. This was Baldev Chaga and Farooq Yusuf's 2nd consecutive win in Nyanyuki, both having been gained on the last stage of the event.
I couldn't imagine that this would happen. I just could not imagine. It's just exactly like last year, what happened to Lee. And in fact, in the last stage, I thought, I can't even do any more now. Let me just take it easy, save the car. And this happens. It's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Chaga had eventually won by just short of 5 minutes, leading home the 14 finishers. The final leaderboard was unexpected, with positions more prominent in the times achieved. Anthony Nielsen deserves a mention for his determination to finish, and Stanley Thuo will remember this rally for getting the Celica to the end for the first time. The win has extended Baldev Chaga's lead in the championship to 100 points. He's the only driver amongst the top 4 who has not won the championship, and for now, it looks as though this could be his year. Chaga also looks set to win the Group N championship, but with 3 rounds to go, he will still need a reliable car and podium places. Quentin Mitchell dislodges Anthony Nielsen for 6th.